Remember when Remainers said that it would be necessary to stockpile medicine for Brexit? Then Brexiteers called it lies and Project Fear. Then the Tory government plan called Operation Yellowhammer was leaked. One section of Yellowhammer talked about the need to stockpile medicine in the case of a no-deal Brexit. Well, fast forward to this week, and the British government has written to medical suppliers urging them to begin stockpiling pharmaceuticals. Why? Because they fear for the possibility of a no deal with the EU, as trade talks are due to run out this year, when the transition period ends on the 31st of December. Many firms have warned the government that this may not be possible. Why? Because there's a bloody pandemic. Health department officials saw the letter and said that the government understands that the global supply chains are currently under significant pressure, but said that the highly expensive precaution was necessary. So the problem is that many stockpiles that were in the process of preparation for a no-deal Brexit have already been used up to deal with this pandemic. It doesn't look like it's possible to replenish those materials before the end of the transition period at the end of this year. It's very, very important to remember that Boris Johnson set this time limit, not the EU. I can't stress this enough, and before Brexiteers jump in here and blame the European Union for this, it was signed into law by his government that no extension to the transition period could ever be asked for. Now, isn't that clever foresight? When Boris Johnson drafted this legislation back earlier on in the year, I called it out for what it was: Boris Johnson painting himself into a corner. Even as the pandemic was in full swing, Boris Johnson refused to allow his government breathing space to deal with both Brexit and the virus. Then there is also the issue of trade deals. The Brexiteers had promised to have them lined up and ready to go back in February. They said that countries would be queuing up to sign trade deals with the UK. Then February came and passed. Now, it doesn't look like any major trade deals, with perhaps the exception of Japan, will actually take place this year. Without trade deals in place, it may be difficult for the UK to get their hands on certain medical products. Think about it for a moment. The UK is almost out of its medical stockpile that it had been preparing for Brexit. It is currently dealing with the first wave of a pandemic, looking at a possible second. Added to that are the winter health problems the NHS are certainly going to face, and finally the shambles of Brexit thrown in too. At the moment, trade talks between the UK and the EU have made very little progress due to disagreements over regulatory alignment, fish, cooperation on crime and justice, and finally the governance of any final trade deal between the two. Boris Johnson was talking about extra oomph, but the next round of talks aren't expected to happen until the 17th, which is almost 2 weeks away. The EU has been pessimistic about a trade deal with the UK. Michel Barnier, the EU's chief negotiator, had been quoted as saying that it was unlikely to happen. The question now is, which will win out? Pragmatism or hard-headed Brexitism? If Boris Johnson does the same thing and somehow buys the UK more time to deal with both the pandemic and Brexit, it will save lives. But by attempting to save lives, he will piss off Brexiteers. What a dilemma that is. Let me know in the comments, guys, what you think. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot. Why not become a Patreon and enjoy access to our Discord server where we share news, chat, and have some fun? If you become a patron, you can also make video suggestions on topics that are important to you. Check it out via the link in the description.